All right, so we're gonna look at factoring by grouping. So first thing you gotta do is group your first two terms and your last two terms, but you gotta be careful. When you're grouping things, make sure you have a plus sign between them. Change that to plus and minus. And now we can group them. We're gonna rewrite that. X2 plus x squared plus negative 4x minus 4. Then we're going to factor out the GCF for this one and the GCF for that one. X squared in the first group. X plus 1 is what we're left with. Plus, we have a negative 4 here and a negative 4 there. Always, if this one's negative, factor it out. We're left with x minus 1. Or, sorry, plus 1. Negative over negative is positive. After that, they should have something in common because we have 2 terms here. What do these 2 terms have in common? The x plus 1. They both have x plus 1 in them. Factor that out. What are we left with on this term? X squared. What are we left with on this term? The negative 4. That's how you factor by grouping. Now, always make sure after you factor, you can't factor anymore. Look at what we have here. We got a difference of squares. So the first term, we can't do anything with that, so leave it there. First factor. This one factors is x minus 2 times x plus 2. And now this one is fully factored. Do a few examples. And it doesn't actually matter which terms you group. And there are some that this will not work for, but we'll deal with those in a few weeks when we talk about possible rational roots. For now, though, if they're factorable, this is how we're going to do it. Group the first 2, group the second 2. Always make sure that's a plus sign. If it's not, you got to change it. Factor out what they have in common. These right here have a 9 in common. And I've left with the x minus 1 on this one as well. They should have something in common. They have x minus 1 in common. I'm left with x squared plus 9. So I left with the x squared from this term, the 9 from this term. This is a plus, so we cannot do anything else with this. This is not a difference of squares because that is not a minus sign. Can't do anything with this other one over here either. We're done. Factored. Move on. Group these together. Group these together, but make sure we change this minus to a plus and negative. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it because there's not a lot of room. So k cubed plus 5k squared. First 2 together plus, and that's negative k minus 5. Okay? On this first term, we've got a k squared in common. Factor it out. That's with k plus 5. On the second one, that's a negative. We're always going to factor out that negative. So minus 1. And again, that's going to be k. That's going to be plus 5. Again, we have a common term. Factor that out. On this term, we're left with k squared. On this term, we're left with a minus 1. We factored it using grouping. Check it, make sure we can't do anything else. K plus 5, k squared minus 1. We've got another difference of squares. do it. K plus 5. That's k minus 1 times k plus 1. Nothing else we can do. Go on to the next one. Okay, looking at this one, I'm going to group these two together, change that to plus a negative 16, and group those together. On here, I don't have anything in common with the numbers, but I do have a v squared. It's going to leave with 4v minus 5 plus, that's a negative. Always, if that's a negative, just factor it out. You never want your leading term to be negative, so we factor that out. A negative, and they do have a 4 in them, so negative 4 is what we're factoring out. That's going to be with a positive 5v, or sorry, 4v. Let's look at the 20. Positive 4v minus, because it's a negative, we're factoring out, 5. Oh, look at that. Same thing. Common factor in the two terms. Take it out. 4v minus 5 times v squared minus 4. Go ahead. Hopefully you see it. It is a difference of squares. Okay. On the next one, we're again going to group these two, those two. That's a plus sign, so we're good. They've got a 2x to the fourth in common. I'm left with an x minus 9. Plus, they have a 7 in common. Again, I want that to stay positive, so I'm not going to take a negative out. X minus 9. Common factor is x minus 9. So we're left with x minus 9 times 2x to the fourth plus 7. Check these. Nothing else we can do. There's no difference in squares or anything else we know how to deal with, so we're done. So every time, we're just going to group the first two terms and the last two terms together, factor out their GCFs, and then, like magic, they will have a common factor in them. That doesn't always happen, but for now, it will. We haven't talked about how to do it when it does not. So that's it for factoring by grouping. That's what we do if we have 4 terms in our polynomial. See you next time.